Daniela froze. She didn't know the name, but Ji-hoon did. She saw it in the way his body stiffened, in the flicker of something dangerous in his eyes. Later, in the corridor, she hissed, "Who is Eun-suk?" Ji-hoon's voice was low, tense. "A man your grandmother trusted. Too much. He was exiled years ago for betrayal. If his name has resurfaced, it means someone inside is aligning with him. And you think it's Scarface?" "I don't think," Ji-hoon said. "I know." That night, back at the safe house, Daniela paced the floor, fury boiling in her chest. "So that's it? They're already plotting against me? I barely got here." Ji-hoon caught her wrist mid-step. "This is how it works. Power isn't inherited. It's stolen. And right now, they're deciding whether to steal it from you or kneel to you." Her heart raced. "And which do you think they'll choose?" He pulled her closer, his grip firm but not painful. His eyes burned into hers. "That depends on how far you're willing to go. How much of your grandmother's shadow you're willing to step into." Her breath hitched, not from fear, but from the nearness of him again. His scent, his heat, the way his voice dropped lower when it was only for her. "Then stay with me," she whispered, "no matter how dark it gets." His thumb brushed against her skin, slow and deliberate. "I already did." The message came at midnight, slipped under the safe-house door. "Meet me where your grandmother first built her empire. Come alone." Ji-hoon read it twice, his jaw tightening. "It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap," Daniela muttered, clutching the paper. "But if I don't go, I look weak. And if I do," he finished for her, "you could die." Her chin lifted stubbornly. "Or I could prove I'm not afraid of ghosts." The place was a forgotten dockyard. Rusted cranes and rotting wood whispering of secrets long buried. The moon lit the water in jagged silver. And he was there. Eun-suk. He wasn't what she expected. No scars, no monstrous glare. Just a man in a flawless charcoal suit. His smile polished, his eyes like knives. He could have been anyone. A banker. A diplomat. But the aura around him, the weight of danger, pressed against her chest like a stone. "So," he said smoothly, spreading his arms. "The granddaughter arrives. I wondered if you had her fire, or just her blood." Daniela didn't flinch. "You betrayed her, and you think I'll let you stand here breathing?" His laugh was soft, mocking. "Betrayal? That's one version. Another is survival. Your grandmother played her games, and she lost. I won't bow to her shadow, and neither will the council, not for long." Ji-hoon shifted closer, his hand brushing near his holster. Eun-suk's gaze flicked to him with sharp interest. "Ah, the loyal knight," he said with a thin smile. "Still playing bodyguard when you could be kingmaker." The words landed heavy. Daniela's eyes darted to Ji-hoon, but he didn't move, didn't blink. His silence was answer enough. He wasn't tempted. Her voice cut through the night. "You're wrong. About all of it. My grandmother didn't lose. She built an empire that lasted decades. And if you think you can use me to finish what you started—" "I don't want to use you," Eun-suk interrupted, his smile deepening. "I want to crown you properly. The council is divided. I could deliver them to you, all of them. Power, real power at your fingertips. But only if you stand with me." The offer hung in the air like poison. Daniela's pulse raced. Her grandmother's ledger burned in her memory. Names, codes, debts. Was this man truly offering her control, or a leash around her neck? Ji-hoon's hand brushed hers, subtle, grounding her. His eyes told her what she already knew. Trust him, and you're lost. She straightened her shoulders, voice steady. "I'd rather burn the empire down than share it with a traitor." For a flicker of a second, Eun-suk's mask cracked, just enough for her to glimpse the fury beneath. Then his smile returned, sharper than before. "Then war it is," he said softly. "And when you fall, remember, it was your knight who kept you standing, not you." He turned and melted into the shadows, leaving Daniela's heart pounding and Ji-hoon's hand still tight against hers. Back at the safe house, the silence between them was heavy, charged. Finally, Daniela whispered, "He thinks I can't do this without you." Jihoon's gaze softened, his voice low. "Then prove him wrong. With me at your side." Her throat tightened. "You're all I have, Jihoon." He stepped closer, their foreheads brushing, the echo of their kiss still alive in the space between them. His voice dropped, intimate and fierce. "Then you'll never lose." It began with fire. The safehouse windows lit up orange before Daniela even heard the blast. Heat and glass rained through the room as Jihoon tackled her to the floor, covering her body with his. The world roared, then collapsed into smoke and screams. When she blinked her eyes open, the safehouse was gone. Only fire, sirens in the distance, and the sound of boots closing in. "Move!" Jihoon barked, dragging her up. His gun was already in his hand, his body coiled tight as steel. They burst into the alley. Shadows moved on the rooftops. Eun-suk's men. At least 6 of them. "Run!" Jihoon shoved her ahead. Bullets tore into the walls. She ducked, heart slamming, lungs burning as they sprinted toward the river. The Han glittered under moonlight, black and cold. Old cargo crates lined the docks, giving cover. Jihoon fired, sharp and efficient, dropping 2 men before the others pinned them down. Daniela crouched beside him, her breath ragged. "He's not playing anymore. He wants me dead." Jihoon's eyes burned in the shadows. "No. He wants you scared. Weak. That's how he wins." "Then how do I win?" The question slipped out raw, desperate, and for a second she hated herself for it. But Jihoon's answer came without hesitation. "By standing, even when the whole world wants you down." Their eyes locked in the middle of chaos, bullets whining overhead. For a moment, the world shrank to just them. The heat of his hand covering hers, the pulse of trust between their hearts. She whispered, voice trembling but certain, "Then stand with me. Always." Jihoon's reply was a vow, husky and unbreakable. "Until the end." Then he kissed her. It wasn't like before, desperate and stolen. This one was battle-forged, carved out of fire and blood. A kiss that told her she wasn't alone and never would be. Her body clung to his, her heart surging with something she couldn't name. Love, maybe, or the closest thing to survival. The kiss broke only when another bullet cracked past them. Jihoon pulled her close, whispering against her lips, "Now let's live long enough to kiss again." They fought side by side. Daniela, for the first time, grabbed a gun from one of the fallen men, her hands shaking but steadying with each breath. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was fighting. When the last man fell into the river's cold current, silence swallowed the docks. Smoke curled into the night sky, the city lights blinking in the distance. Daniela's chest heaved, her knuckles raw, but her eyes were steady. For the first time, she felt the shift. She wasn't just the granddaughter of a queen. She was becoming one herself. And Jihoon, bloodied and breathing hard, stood beside her like a dark guardian. His hand found hers, fingers lacing tight. No words, no questions, just a vow in the grip of his hand. The night after the dockyard ambush, Daniela couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw fire. The safe house burning, bullets sparking against steel, Jihoon's body shielding hers. But beneath the fear was something sharper, something that coiled in her blood like flame. Fury. She sat at the cracked wooden table, her grandmother's ledger open in front of her. Lines of coded entries stared back at her. Debts, alliances, enemies. For the first time, she wasn't just trying to understand them. She was trying to use them. Jihoon came out of the bathroom, damp hair slicked back, fresh bandages on his arm. He paused when he saw her. "You're still awake." She didn't look up. "We keep waiting for him to move, and he keeps winning. That ends now." He stepped closer, eyeing the ledger. "You're planning something." She lifted her gaze, steady. "I'm planning to remind them who I am." Hours later, they entered one of the city's most exclusive clubs, Eun-suk's rumored money-laundering hub. The music was thick with bass, bodies moving under flashing lights, but Daniela felt the tension crackle like a live wire. Ji-hoon leaned close, his breath warm against her ear. 3 guards on the balcony. 2 near the bar. I'll handle them. Her pulse raced at his nearness, but her voice was cool. No, we handle them. Together. And for the first time, he didn't argue. They moved like shadows. Ji-hoon's strikes were precise, silent, while Daniela used distraction. A quick hand. A whispered word that drew attention away. For the first time, she wasn't being shielded. She was fighting beside him, each of their movements syncing like they'd been doing this for years. In the manager's office above the dance floor, Daniela finally found what she wanted. Ledgers, bank records, proof of Eun-suk's laundering network. She held the files in her hands, her voice trembling with exhilaration. This is enough to choke him. Ji-hoon's eyes gleamed. More than enough. You've just turned his empire into your weapon. But as they turned to leave, gunfire erupted downstairs. Eun-suk's men, faster than they expected. The club exploded into chaos. Screams, broken glass, panicked crowds rushing for the exits. Daniela and Ji-hoon pressed back to back against the wall, firing in short bursts. Smoke filled the air, neon lights flashing red and blue across Ji-hoon's face as he reloaded. "Stay with me," he growled over the noise. "I'm not going anywhere," she shot back. Her hands shook on the gun, but when her shot dropped a man closing in on Ji-hoon's blind side, she saw his head snap toward her. Surprise, then something hotter, deeper, blazing in his eyes. By the time they burst onto the roof, panting, bruised, the city sprawled out before them like a kingdom of fire and light. Daniela clutched the stolen records to her chest, her heart pounding. She wasn't running anymore. She turned to Ji-hoon, voice fierce despite the tremble in it. "This is mine now. My war. My empire. And I swear to you, I will not let him take it." Ji-hoon stared at her for a long, heavy beat. Then he closed the distance and kissed her again, hard, rough, claiming. Not desperation this time, but recognition, respect, a vow sealed on her lips. "You're not my queen," he whispered against her mouth. "You're the queen." The council chamber buzzed with tension before Daniela even walked in. She could feel it in the way the guards shifted uneasily, in the whispers that died as she entered. She wore black silk tonight, sharp lines that cut like armor. Ji-hoon trailed one step behind her, as always, but his presence was different now. Not just a shadow, her anchor, her shield. Scarface, silver-haired and smirking, rose first. "The queen honors us with her presence. Tell me, Daniela, will you finally accept what you are? A child playing at thrones." Murmurs rippled around the table. Daniela set the folder on the polished wood with a deliberate thud. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "Children don't burn empires," she said coolly. "But traitors do. And tonight, I'm done playing." She opened the file, scattering bank records, coded transactions, and photos across the table. Every set of eyes sharpened. Gasps cut through the silence. "This is Eun-suk's hand," she continued. "His accounts, his laundering hubs, every deal he's made under your noses. While you debate crowns and legacies, he's been selling pieces of your empire to the highest bidder." A councilwoman leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the evidence. "If this is true." "It is true." Ji-hoon's voice sliced through, low and steady. "I staked my life to bring her this proof. If you doubt her, doubt me." That silenced them more than the papers did. Scarface sneered, trying to recover. "Lies, forged to pit us against one another. Eun-suk warned me she'd try this." "Thank you," Daniela cut in sharply, her eyes narrowing, "for confirming who his ally is." The room erupted. Voices shouted over one another, some demanding proof, others calling for Scarface's head. The council was fracturing right before her eyes, and for the first time she didn't feel small. She didn't feel like an imposter. She felt like her grandmother's blood ran fire through her veins. She stood taller, letting her voice rise above the chaos. "You wanted to see if I was worthy of this crown? Then watch. Because tonight, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm showing you your future. Stand with me, and we build something stronger than my grandmother ever dreamed. Stand against me." Her eyes flicked to Scarface, cold as steel. "And you fall with him." The silence that followed was electric. One by one, heads turned away from Scarface. He tried to snarl, to argue, but the council guards moved before he could finish, dragging him from the chamber as he cursed her name. Daniela's chest rose and fell, her pulse racing. She didn't look at Ji-hoon until the doors slammed shut behind her enemy. When she did, his eyes burned with something fierce, something proud. He leaned in close enough for only her to hear. "You didn't just survive tonight," he murmured. "You ruled it." Her breath trembled as she whispered back, "Not without you." His fingers brushed hers beneath the table, hidden from the others, but the touch was more powerful than any oath. The first blow came at dawn. Daniela was still in Ji-hoon's apartment, papers spread across the table, when her phone buzzed. Not a call, a video. Unmarked number. She pressed play, heart already in her throat. On the screen, one of her grandmother's oldest lieutenants was kneeling, bloodied, his hands bound. Behind him stood Eun-suk, smiling like a serpent. "You think you've won," he drawled in Korean, the words translated in subtitles that burned themselves across the footage. "But a crown is only heavy if you live long enough to wear it. Choose wisely, little queen. Your people or your pride." The video cut off mid-scream. Daniela's stomach twisted. For the first time since she'd claimed the council, she felt the full weight of it. The blood, the history, the lives tied to her decisions. Her hands trembled, but Ji-hoon was already at her side, pulling the phone gently from her grip. "This is his game," he said firmly. "Fear, doubt. If you break now, you hand him everything. But they'll keep dying," she whispered, tears burning the back of her throat. "People who trusted my grandmother. People who never asked for me." Ji-hoon cupped her face, forcing her eyes to his. His thumb brushed a tear away before it could fall. "You are not responsible for Eun-suk's cruelty. You are responsible for stopping it. That's what your grandmother couldn't do. That's why it has to be you." Her lips parted, but words failed her. Instead, she pressed her forehead against his chest, inhaling the clean scent of his shirt, grounding herself in him. For a moment, the world narrowed to just them. His arms around her, the warmth of his breath near her ear, and then his voice, low and rough, almost breaking. "I'll die before I let him touch you." The words struck her deeper than any threat Eun-suk could make. Because Ji-hoon wasn't just swearing loyalty to the queen. He was swearing his heart. She looked up, their faces inches apart. The tension that had been building between them for weeks snapped in an instant. Her lips found his. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't cautious. It was fire. Desperate. Consuming. The kiss of two people who had been circling each other through danger and darkness and finally let the truth ignite. When they broke apart, both breathless, Daniela whispered, "We can't lose. Not now. Not when I finally found you." Ji-hoon rested his forehead against hers, eyes blazing. "Then we won't. We'll burn him before he burns us." The war had never felt more personal. The rain hadn't stopped in 2 days. Seoul's streets shimmered with reflections of neon and headlights, a city alive and unaware of the war happening in its shadows. Daniela and Ji-hoon crouched in the back of a black sedan, parked 2 blocks from the abandoned shipping yard Eun-suk now used as his base. "This is suicide," one of her men whispered from the front seat. "No," Daniela said, her voice sharp but steady. "It's strategy. He expects us to hide, to beg for mercy. We're gonna walk straight into his nest and tear it apart from the inside." Ji-hoon met her eyes in the dim light. He didn't argue, didn't flinch. "Then we walk together." They slipped from the car, dressed not in finery but in shadows. Black jackets, boots soft against the wet pavement. Daniela's hair clung damply to her face as they moved toward the chain-link fence. Ji-hoon cut it open with practiced ease, and for a heartbeat, she watched him. The man who'd been her enemy's weapon, now risking everything for her. Her chest tightened with something fiercer than fear. Inside, The yard was a graveyard of rusted containers and half-lit floodlamps. Guards patrolled in pairs, rifles slung over their shoulders. Daniela's pulse thundered, but Ji-hoon's hand brushed hers, grounding her, silent reassurance in the dark. They slipped through shadows, following the map burned into Ji-hoon's memory. The container at the far end, Eun-suk's vault. Inside were the ledgers, the accounts, the leverage Daniela needed to turn the council fully against him. One wrong step and they were dead. A guard rounded the corner suddenly. His flashlight swept over Daniela's face. Her breath caught, but Ji-hoon moved faster than thought, grabbing the man from behind, twisting, and dropping him silently to the ground. He pressed a finger to his lips, his other hand still steady on her arm. Her heart hammered, but she nodded, forcing her legs to keep moving. Finally, they reached the vault container. Ji-hoon worked the lock with practiced hands while Daniela kept watch. Every second stretched, the rain pounding louder, her nerves fraying thinner. The lock snapped. The door groaned open. Inside, stacks of files, hard drives, cash. Eun-suk's empire in boxes. Daniela exhaled shakily. This is it. This is what we need. Ji-hoon gave her a fleeting smile, rare and fierce. Then let's take it all. But before they could move, a slow clap echoed from the shadows. They froze. Eun-suk stepped into the dim light, umbrella in hand, not a drop of rain touching his tailored suit. His smile was sharp as a blade. Well, well, the queen and her knight. His voice dripped amusement. Did you really think I wouldn't expect you? Behind him, more guards emerged, rifles raised, surrounding them in a tightening circle. Daniela's breath hitched, but she straightened her spine, stepping forward. You should have killed me when you had the chance. Eun-suk's eyes glittered with cruel delight. Oh, Daniela, that's exactly what I planned to do. The guns clicked in unison. Ji-hoon shifted subtly, his hand brushing hers. Ready, waiting for her word. And Daniela realized in that moment, this wasn't the end of her story. This was the beginning of her reign. The circle of guns pressed in like the jaws of a beast. Daniela's breath was steady, though her pulse roared in her ears. Eun-suk tilted his head, studying her like a cat with a mouse. You could have lived quietly, little queen. Instead, you chose a throne of knives. Ji-hoon's body shifted protectively in front of her, but Daniela touched his arm lightly, stepping forward. Her voice cut sharp through the rain. No, I chose to end what you've been bleeding dry for years. I chose not to be afraid. A flicker crossed his face. Surprise? Amusement? Then he snapped his fingers. The guards raised their rifles. Ji-hoon's whisper was only for her. On my signal. Trust me. And then chaos erupted. A flashbang rolled across the wet ground, blinding light and shattering sound exploding through the night. Ji-hoon lunged, knocking Daniela down as bullets cracked above them. From the shadows, her loyal men, the ones she'd summoned quietly hours before, poured in, weapons drawn. The yard became a battlefield. Screams, gunfire, the metallic stench of blood. Eun-suk drew his own pistol, firing into the chaos. His eyes locked on Daniela. She scrambled to her feet, grabbing a fallen rifle, her hands steady despite the storm raging around her. Ji-hoon was a blur beside her, disarming a guard with brutal efficiency, shouting her name when a bullet whizzed too close. And then it was just her and Eun-suk. The noise of the battle seemed to fall away. He smirked, gun raised, rain sliding down his face. You're not your grandmother, he spat. No, she said, leveling her rifle at him, her voice steel and fire. I'm better. One shot. Eun-suk staggered, disbelief painted across his face. Then he collapsed, blood pooling dark against the rain-slick concrete. Silence followed, broken only by the ragged breaths of survivors. Daniela lowered her weapon slowly, her body trembling with exhaustion, triumph, grief. Around her, the guards who had once followed Eun-suk dropped their weapons, eyes turned toward her, waiting, and in that moment she understood. This wasn't just about her grandmother's ledger. This was about the crown that had always been hers to claim. She lifted her chin. It's over. From this night forward, no more betrayal. No more fear. We build something new, or we burn it all down. The survivors bowed their heads. The crown was hers. Ji-hoon stepped to her side, his shirt bloodied, his face cut, but his eyes burned only for her. For once, there was no mask, no restraint. You won, he said softly. No, she whispered back, her throat tightening as tears mixed with the rain. We won. He reached for her, and this time there was no hesitation. Their kiss was fierce, claiming, the world around them dissolving into nothing but heat and promise. When they broke apart, Daniela rested her forehead against his, her voice trembling but certain. You're mine now. No more running. No more shadows. Ji-hoon's answering smile was raw, unguarded. Always. Your knight. Your king if you'll have me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel. Click on the notification icon.